didn't feel awkward. It didn't feel uncomfortable. It felt natural.
Once a girl becomes a playmate, they immediately enter this family of playmates.
You know, you're gonna meet all types of people from everywhere, and everybody wants to be your friend.
When I became a playmate, it was a big no-no, and ooh, you know, what a tramp.
I'm gonna get naked. I'm gonna get paid for it.
Beautiful women do attract the wrong kind of guy often.
The lifestyle in that industry is treacherous. It's filled with drinking, drugs, late night, bad people.
A lot of them are approached by people who offer them a lot of money to go on dates with guys.
Beauty has an expiration date.
Here I am living like this lavish lifestyle in the Playboy Mansion to sleeping on the floor on a mat.
We like to see them fall so we can just pick them back up again.
We didn't kill anybody. Not yet, anyways.
For some women, searching for a shortcut to fame and fortune, the formula seems simple: look pretty and lose the clothes. But while taking it all off of the camera can lead to a life in the fast lane, a Centerfolds world has temptations at every turn. For Janine Linda Mulder, Penthouse Pet of the Month in December 1987, it was a series of bad decisions, including a broken marriage to the ultimate bad boy that would lead her down a very dark road. The one-time party girl would not only do hard time in federal prison, she'd be forced to take on an American sweetheart to keep her family. But before Janine's life turned into a living hell, her centerfold journey started in paradise.
With my first centerfold, it was Malibu Beach and butt naked, 18 years old, and it felt euphoric. It wasn't a sexual thing. It was a beautiful feeling of the warm wind and this, and I was hooked.
In a matter of months, Janine went from high school student to living the high life in Hollywood.
The attraction for me,
In the heyday, I would say, was being at these parties with centerfolds and celebrities, and there were drugs. No matter how much I say it, I wasn't that much into drugs, but it was abundant.
financially, it was a kid in a candy store. I mean, I'm getting this attention, I'm getting fan mail, I'm getting all these older guys, buying me stuff. There was a whole new world out there that I wasn't prepared for. I thought it was something you might see in the movies.
There's no shortage of attention from men in a centerfolds world, but it's often the bad boys that get the girl everyone wants. And Janine fell hard and fast for a tattooed TV star and owner of the world-famous custom bike shop, West Coast Choppers.
When I met Jesse James, he was funny. He was charming. He had charisma. You know, all the attributes that the latest women in his life probably fell for.
Janine and Jesse wasted no time in tying the knot. The two were hitched in a televised wedding in 2002. The birth of their daughter, Sunny, soon followed. But it wasn't long before dark clouds descended on their stormy relationship.
There's a different side. You know, there's always another side to each of us. And he and I were, all I can say, were oil and water. And we just did not mesh at all.
Janine and Jesse's breakup was the kind of love gone bad where the law gets involved. In May of 2003, Janine made headlines after she was arrested for assault. According to police reports, the penthouse pet went postal, shattering a flower pot over her husband's head and attacking him with a metal sculpture. The couple filed for divorce 5 months later. Needing to provide for herself and her family, Janine cashed in on her fame by amping up a career in adult films. What she didn't know, Uncle Sam was watching and wanted his cut. When the IRS finally came knocking, she owed over $300,000 in back taxes. She would eventually plead guilty to willful failure to pay federal income tax.
I'm like, get out of here. There's no way. That's got to be a mistake. Clueless. I have no other word than clueless about how to handle taxes, because had I known the severity, I wouldn't have landed in federal prison.
In December of 2008, Janine left the high life behind to do hard time. She served a 6-month sentence at the Federal Correction Institution in Victorville, California.
You go into prison, you can either do it with dignity and grace, or you can be a little crybaby. I was a crybaby for about 3 days.
When someone like Janine Lindemalder gets in trouble and cheats on her taxes, she's definitely going to be viewed differently than, say, I am or a banker is.
Do I consider myself an easy target? Absolutely.
The fact that she is this tattooed, rule-breaking woman who isn't conforming to our idea of the modest woman, we're going to be more difficult on her. We're just going to be harder on her.
But it was upon her release that Janine was faced with her toughest test yet. Jesse James and new wife, award-winning actress Sandra Bullock, were fighting the former centerfold, porn star, and now convicted felon for sole custody of Sonny.
When you have a custody case between America's sweetheart and this tattooed porn star, a lot of people are going to say, well, Sandra Bullock can do no wrong.
To this day, from that time, it's now gone on about at least 3 years of where apparently I don't know why I'm not getting her back.
People aren't really judging her for who she is. They're just taking one look at her or saying, well, she's in a court case against Sandra Bullock. Obviously, she's a bad person.
My ex had a way of I think, painting a picture. I don't fault him completely, but is he doing things fairly? No, he's not.
I don't think we can ever really know the full story about someone like Janine Lindemalder unless we are her. I mean, no one really knows what her motivations are.
We'll see what the future holds. Right now, I've got a truck, I've got a trailer, I've got the love for my kids, my family, and that will keep me going. I'll be out here fighting the good fight. And we'll see where this takes me.
I think if you're a fallen centerfold in today's society, oftentimes it is a little bit of a shorter fall than, say, the fall from grace as a rock star or an actor.
I think that in America, there's always going to be judgment. Major judgment about people who take off their clothes and pose for centerfolds.
So when they get into drugs or get into bad behavior, oftentimes people think, well, of course they did.
But while a centerfold's fall from grace might not always be front-page news, when she becomes mixed up in attempted murder, you can bet it's going to grab headlines. By all accounts, Victoria Rathgeb had a successful career after being named Playmate of the Year in 1968. The model and actress appeared in more than 30 television series and movies throughout the 60s and 70s, including a part in the classic film Rosemary's Baby. In fact, the film's director, Roman Polanski, even gave her a gift, a Walter PPK .380 pistol, James Bond's weapon of choice. But as with so many aging actresses and models, the steady work and attention didn't last forever.
It's a very sad and empty expectation. You'll have this voluptuous or beautiful, young, toned body, but how long can that last?
Decades after her heyday, Victoria would once again have Hollywood's full attention. According to testimony in a Los Angeles court on October 16, 2010, Victoria accused her husband, Bruce Rathgeb, of being unfaithful. After a heated argument, Bruce stormed out of the couple's Hollywood apartment. While waiting for the elevator, Bruce was again confronted by Victoria. Only this time, she was armed. Victoria shot her husband at close range with the same gun Roman Polanski had given her back in her glory days. Bail was set at $1.5 million. She eventually pled no contest to attempted voluntary manslaughter and is currently serving a 9-year sentence in state prison.
Aging is the worst thing that can happen to a playmate.
Beauty has an expiration date.
Posing nude for a living isn't the kind of career that comes with a 401k, but one former penthouse pet had a retirement plan that turned out to be the biggest mistake of her life.
I was up for conspiracy to possess cocaine, house of prostitution. I was like, what, and what? You know?
When a centerfold is bearing it all in front of the camera, Financial planning isn't exactly the first thing on her mind, but once the glory days fade away, cash flow can become a serious problem. Sometimes you have to think outside of the box to make a buck. 1985 penthouse pet Lisa Ann Taylor, known to her legions of fans as Melissa Wolf, certainly got creative in her post-centerfold career.
There's a booking form on my site that says, would you like a dream date or a photo shoot? And the fees, the amounts are up there. It's like, it's $300 for the first hour, $200 for every hour after, or $1,000 for the whole day to shoot me in a magazine style in my home.
But it wasn't long before rumors surfaced that there was something more lurid than amateur photography taking place inside her Atlanta home.
We got a tip from the editor of the local newspaper who had received an anonymous phone call. It said that one of the people lived in Sugarloaf and that they were real estate agents and prostitutes. Once we determined who was who and where they lived, that's when I took it to the police.
Events that followed would earn Melissa the notorious nickname of Mansion Madam and forced her to return to a line of work she thought she had left behind. Like so many before her, the woman who once billed herself as Penthouse's most published pet parlayed her centerfold status in the mid-1980s to a lucrative career working the seedy circuit of strip clubs across the country. But it wasn't long before life on the road began to take its toll.
You do 4 shows a day, Monday through Saturday, then travel out again on Sunday, come back home, fly back out. You barely had time to pay your bills. Stripping is not a glamorous life. People seem to think that it is. It's a night shift job predominantly. For the girls that live here and work, I can't imagine how monotonous it must be to be in the same club night after night after night after night. Just some of the lovely ladies here at the Platinum Club. You all want to say hello? Hey.
Melissa soon made the jump into acting in adult films, but all the while, she was working on a plan B that kept her clothes on.
Unlike a lot of adult stars, Melissa was very smart in saving her money. She had a husband, her first husband was her trainer, and they began investing in Baskin-Robbins franchises. She had real estate in Canada. She had this $1 million mansion, and she had paid a lot of it off, and she was planning on retirement or moving into another profession like real estate.
You need to have something to fall back on. Don't be in a position like me where it was great for a chunk of time, 25 years, and then you are flat on your back with nothing.
I decided to make that transition into my life from porn into real estate because I enjoyed building my own home and because it was something I wanted to do and that the commission was good, and besides, I swear old strippers go to die.
But Melissa's life wasn't all listing prices and open houses. She still had her website business, offering up photo ops and, according to the Gwinnett County DA, a weekend of sex with the centerfold and other women for $10,000.
January 11th, 2007. Imagine dark police cars rolling past the gates, past the armed guards, armed with a search warrant, start cruising, and they pull up at this red brick mansion, and they knock on the door. They want to see Melissa Wolf. She doesn't know what they're there for. She thinks they're there for a mortgage fraud next door.
I'm thinking, oh, you guys are at the wrong house. You want the house next door.
Moments later, the Gwinnett County Police and the FBI were standing inside the home that would become known as the brothel in the burbs.
They had a search warrant, and that I was up for conspiracy to possess cocaine, house of prostitution, and what was the other one? Oh, RICO, that's it. The big one, RICO. Yeah, the RICO Act. Yeah, the big one. I was like, what, and what?
She wasn't happy about it. She didn't resist or fight or anything like that, but she did say, well, if I'm going to jail, can I at least get a cocktail and a Valium? And we had to tell her, no, you can't do that.
Here you had a former penthouse centerfold charged with running a brothel in one of Atlanta's most expensive neighborhoods, very Republican, a lot of church-going people, and she was now in jail, charged with prostitution.
To make matters worse, her partner in crime, Nicole Probert, known as Naughty Nikki, lived up to her name and turned state's evidence against Melissa.
Naughty Nikki had made a deal through her lawyer with the DA to have her charges dropped if Melissa was charged and pled guilty. Suddenly, you have betrayal in the brothel. You have a woman who was supposedly her best friend giving her up. So she pled guilty to prostitution, drug possession, and she was given probation but a $150,000 fine and given a deadline to pay it off.
After draining her assets to pay for her defense, and with her dream of becoming a real estate agent now doomed, Melissa found it impossible to pay the fine.
My website is completely flopping now because everybody's afraid to sign up because of the information they have to give. They're afraid they might be considered a client or something like that. So yeah, I'm having a difficult time making money.
Melissa Wolf's only option was a comeback career as a 43-year-old stripper.
I find it still very uncomfortable, even though I have a lot of young boys that like me and a lot of older men that still like me and a lot of fans that still like me and love to see me perform. I am a good stage performer. It is still very difficult to get up on a stage in a business that is girls half my age. Like that? Well, there's more than that, actually. It doesn't look like a lot, but there's a lot more in the basket. I just couldn't pick it all up. You're not allowed to take tips in the garter here. However, you are allowed to sweat profusely all over the stage.
I think on the surface it looked like here was this prosecutor just grabbing some headlines. But behind that, the FBI wanted to talk to Melissa about some of the people she had worked for in the past. They were suspects in much bigger investigations, and I think they hoped to squeeze her and let her give them up. Well, she didn't give anybody up. She just said she didn't know anything about these people. As a result, she got the book thrown at her.
While Melissa found herself on the wrong side of the law for dabbling in the world's oldest profession, former Playboy bunny Lori Bambi Bembenek did hard time for a more serious crime.
Lori is an unusual case. First of all, you have a woman who's a Playboy bunny who's also a cop, and a really sharp cop, and married to a cop.
In the early morning hours of May 28, 1981, Bembenek went from being a beauty with a badge to the prime suspect in a cold-blooded killing. Christine Schultz, ex-wife of Bembenek's husband Alfred Schultz, was found dead in bed, murdered by a single .38 caliber pistol shot fired into her back and through her heart. When ballistics revealed the bullet came from her husband's off-duty revolver, police lowered the boom on Bembenek.
Someone who apparently became jealous or resentful that her husband was paying alimony to his first wife and couldn't stand it. Now, what happened after that? The ex-wife ends up being murdered, but who really did it?
Her Playboy past made the trial a national sensation, with the press as interested in what she was wearing in court as they were in the outcome of the case. Bembenek maintained her innocence, but the jury disagreed. She was sentenced to life in prison.
I think our society still makes some very bad generalizations, and I think that when you put yourself out there like that and you're a nude model or you're a dancer or you do really suggestive television and these things happen to you, I think that they're going to throw the book at you.
Bembenek's story took a shocking turn when in 1990 she escaped out of a laundry room window. Bambi was on the lam.
She had a lot of fans, fans who were thrilled that she was an anti-hero in a lot of ways. There were people who had Run, Bambi, Run T-shirts made up. She had her own cheering section.
Our judicial system is a little tough on these people, and I think it's because they believe that's what the public expects and wants. But in the Bambi case, not so.
When her case was featured on America's Most Wanted, it eventually led to her capture north of the border in Ontario. She was returned to the United States, where the former bunny caught a break. The judge determined that serious mistakes had been made in the case, including the mishandling of key evidence, and her life sentence was changed to 10 years probation.
I don't think there's really enough conclusive evidence to say that she is the person who killed that ex-wife. Certainly, she's someone who got in over her head, made some rash decisions, made herself look foolish, if nothing else, made herself look unreliable, impetuous. That may actually be all that she's guilty of.
After her parole ended, Bembenek continued to try and clear her name, but her efforts failed. Battling financial problems and alcoholism, she passed away from liver failure in 2010. Her attorney continues to pursue a pardon. Bambi Bembenek's legal troubles popped up years after posing in her prime, but for a new generation of centerfolds, run-ins with the law often happen much sooner in their career, sometimes even before their issue hits the stands.
Don't we see it? We see the centerfold, then the next shot is always the mug shot. Why is that?
A centerfold's career is no longer confined to a magazine page. The last 10 years has seen the rise of a new breed of beautiful women who bear it all online, the cyber girl. These new objects of desire are just a few clicks away, but many are learning the hard way that the centerfold life still has a downside in the digital age. For Loredana Ferrilio, a Playboy Cyber Girl of the Week in September of 2002, the internet made her a player in the game, but accusations of engaging in prostitution with one of the world's most famous athletes almost sent her to prison. Loredana first appeared on Playboy's radar after taking part in a competition that left at least a little to the imagination.
I entered this bikini contest. They paid for my flight and everything, and I got on a plane by myself, and I competed against Hawaiian Traffic International. And there's 90 beautiful girls, and I ended up winning.
With the high-profile win came opportunities to take her modeling to an even higher level.
From that point on, I was like, maybe this is what I should be doing. I just remember having a bunch of business cards, photographer, agents, manager. So I started getting phone calls, and while I was there, I remember they asked me to do Playboy. And if I was interested, to call them.
Loredana returned to Hawaii for a test shoot. The pictures were a hit with Hef, and she moved into the Playboy mansion. She soon found out partying wasn't just a way of life. It was a way to make a living.
I started doing club appearances and using my name as the host of a party.
You're also booked by Playboy for different jobs. So any Playboy party, whether it's at the Playboy Mansion or at the Palms Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, they get appearance fees. So it's $500 or $750 for you to come and be there and mingle with the host.
It was at one of these parties where she caught the eye of Tiger Woods.
The night that I met him, he was surrounded by a crowd. So obviously I knew he was somebody, but I didn't know that he was married because there was no ring. And he kind of approached his bodyguard to come up to me and say, hey, why don't you guys just come join our table? And I did. So we started talking, he got me a drink, and we just hung out and exchanged numbers, and we started texting from that day on. I didn't know I was married, so it wasn't really my fault, and people could point fingers and say, oh, she's a bad girl. I didn't know this was gonna turn out this way.
Loredana and Tiger soon began a torrid, secret affair, but it didn't stay a secret for long. News of Tiger's serial cheating broke wide open in the mainstream media, and in 2009, the New York Post revealed Loredana as mistress number 12. That was followed by a bombshell revelation from Hollywood madam Michelle Braun. The all-world golfer had paid serious cash for sex with Loredana.
I started Googling my name, and it just started I was devastated. I remember just little by little getting rid of all my friends around me because I couldn't trust anybody if I talked to them.
A court eventually let Loredana off the hook after ruling the $15,000 was a gift. Even though the charges were dropped, the notoriety that came with the allegations left a mark.
People think, oh, she had her 5 minutes of fame, but 5 minutes of fame, not really 5 minutes, that's for the rest of your life, and you always have to deal with it.
For Louise Glover, the first Brit to be named Playboy's Model of the Year, it wasn't sex that got her in big trouble with the law. It was her temper. Morning hours of December 15, 2007, Glover confronted her friend Maxine Hardcastle in the bathroom of a London nightclub. Glover accused Hardcastle of flirting with her husband, and the model was more than willing to take matters into her own hands. According to Hardcastle, Glover knocked her down with a punch to the face. Then, after pulling Hardcastle off the floor by her hair, Glover attempted to dunk her in the toilet, striking her head against the lavatory 10 times.
They're almost acting out for even more attention. And being just a centerfold or just being in Playboy or showing your body isn't enough. So the more poorly you can behave, the more attention you can get and the more fame you might acquire.
Hardcastle sustained injuries to her face, scratches on her arms, and was missing a chunk of her hair that doctors told her might never grow back. Glover, who showed up in court wearing stiletto heels, was found guilty of assault in February 2010. She avoided prison, however, and received a 2-year suspended sentence and community service.
most of us can't pretend that we haven't gotten drunk or that we haven't done this or that we all kind of know that we've done bad things. Not necessarily shoving someone's head in the toilet bad, but things that we wouldn't necessarily want public. And it's harder to run from that. So I think as a result, we're a little bit more forgiving.
For Carissa Shannon, Playboy's Miss July for 2009, it was a 1-2 punch of sex and violence that pushed the envelope for proper Playmate behavior. The beautiful blonde padded her portfolio with 2 assault charges and a red-hot homemade sex tape. There was a time when Carissa and her twin sister Christina were the apple of Hugh Hefner's eye. He not only made the identical twins back-to-back centerfolds for a special double issue, he also cast them as his live-in lovers for his reality show, The Girls Next Door. What few inside Playboy knew, the sisters had a mean streak and a rap sheet. Their bad rep was no secret in their hometown of St. Petersburg, Florida, after a January night out with friends back in 2007 turned out to be downright nasty.
Carissa Shannon went to a bar and after a night of partying ended up getting into a fight with someone, which for someone who was promoting herself as girl next door and as kind of a good girl, that was not quite in line with the image that most people had of her.
By the time cops arrived, each sister had taken a turn breaking a beer bottle over someone's head. And this wasn't Carissa's first run-in with the law. Only a month before, she had been arrested on a misdemeanor battery charge. The victim, her...
I get scared sometimes that our lives are so boring that we're latching on to what's happening in everyone else's. It's why reality TV is so exciting. And when you see a story like this amazing kind of scandalous story that you would only think is fiction and it's actually real, I think it excites us in some odd, scary way.
A little over a year after appearing as a Playmate, Carissa Shannon would double down on her bad girl image when she gave the okay to release a sex tape she made with boyfriend and actor Sam Jones. Vivid Entertainment head honcho Steve Hirsch called it the most extreme video he'd ever seen.
The more publicity that we get on a tape and the more awareness there is, obviously the better the tape will do. The Carissa Shannon sex tape did very well. She was connected to Playboy. She was one of Hef's girlfriends, but she was also on the show, the Girls Next Door show, for a couple of years. So there was great awareness with her, plus she has an amazing look.
I think it sounds cute to say the Playboy brand is the girl next door because that's what the show is based off of, but the truth is that brand has moved on too. It's got to get attention. It's got to sell magazines or online subscriptions or whatever it does now.
For a centerfold, a good time isn't hard to find. But being the life of the party can come at a very steep price.
They get easy money, they are invited to all the parties, events. I think a lot of them are overwhelmed by that attention.
A lot of women who are successful as centerfolds early on get hooked on drugs or alcohol.
I have seen the dark side of what becoming a Playboy Playmate can lead to.
There's a huge incentive and a huge attraction to do drugs and alcohol because they're just all around you.
It's not just women hoping to break out with a centerfold spread. Men are just as eager to bear it all for a shot at fame and fortune, and they can fall just as hard. But for Keon Goffney, a centerfold past would prove to be the least of his problems. Keon began his career on the runway, and when he brought his twin Talion into the business, the brothers generated some serious buzz. Then in 2005, the twins were offered a chance to co-star in a gay porn film.
We didn't go looking for, oh, let's go shoot porn. People, oh, you guys are such cute twins, and let me shoot you, and let me this, and, you know, the next thing you know, we're getting flown to Vegas, and we're getting paid $800 for the day, which is a lot of money to a 20, 21-year-old.
The adult film work on his resume would come back to haunt Keon when Talion, an ex-con, brought his brother into his line of work.
They are charged with being the rooftop burglars, but it turns out that the two have been in front of cameras before. They're gay porn stars.
40 cases in 40 years they were trying to give us, but it only got interesting when they found out about the centerfold we did back in 2002 and the way we look oh, those are the ones that did that, the twins that did the Black Interest spread, and they did that video, and now they're doing this.
I think that if you are a gay male sex worker, you pretty much have two really, really big strikes against you. If you happen to be, say, a person of color as well, it's even harder.
For his role as lookout, Keon was released for time served. His brother Talion pled guilty to burglary.
You do the crime, you do the time, that kind of thing. I know what he was up to and what I was doing. So I know what's out there about me, and I own it. And you learn from your mistakes.
One of the most common mistakes centerfolds make is giving in to their peer pressures that comes with living life in a fast lane.
The lifestyle in that industry is treacherous. I mean, to meet the right kind of people, to be a centerfold, to be featured in a Playboy, Penthouse, one of those, magazines, you have to network. And you have to get to know everyone. And that networking is filled with drinking, drugs, late night, bad people.
I think if you are paid to appear at clubs and you are basically making your living off of partying, then absolutely there's a huge incentive and a huge attraction to do drugs and alcohol because they're just all around you.
Unfortunately, many of these women will carry their struggle with substance abuse with them long after their fame has faded away, and a centerfold past tends to make any misstep, especially a run-in with the law, a newsworthy event. In April of 2010, Playboy playmate Tanya Bayer made headlines when she was charged with attempting to illegally obtain oxycodone, also known as hillbilly heroin, from 3 different doctors in West Palm Beach, Florida. She spent 6 months as a fugitive from the law. When she turned herself into authorities in March of 2010, the photos of a not exactly camera-ready Tanya Bayer popped up in papers across the country.
I think sometimes we like to see them fall so we can just pick them back up again and help save them. That's the craziest thing about it. We want to go through this ride with them. We don't want to do it ourselves, but we want to kind of go through the roller coaster with them.
For the April issue of Playboy back in 1989, playmate Jennifer Lynn Jackson told readers her ambition was to follow the golden road of success to the top and be happy. That golden road turned into a dead end when she was charged with receiving stolen property in 2005 back in her home state of Ohio.
It is more than they could think. They have left their small towns. They're going to amount to something, and then it doesn't work.
Girls come to LA and, they're all starstruck, and want to get in the movies. They find that you got to be very lucky and very talented to wind up there.
It's almost a fate worse than death to return as unsuccessful.
In 2007, authorities pulled Jennifer over for drunk driving after she was spotted stealing cigarettes from a gas station. Marijuana and rolling papers were found in her car. A few months later, she was charged with disorderly intoxication at her trailer park and was ordered to undergo drug and alcohol treatment. But the treatment apparently didn't take. 2 years later, Jennifer was found dead in her bed at the age of 40.
A lot of girls don't think about plan B. They put all their eggs in one basket. I'm going to be famous. Oh, I'm going to be a star. I'm going to be rich. And if it doesn't work out, they haven't saved any money. And they don't have the education that they may need to get a really good job. And so they become very, very despondent.
And it's not just the centerfolds who fade into obscurity that are in danger of self-destruction. Even one of the world's most famous playmates would pay the ultimate price in her very public battle with drug addiction.
Anna Nicole is just such a tragic story because I think she really, really wanted to just be a beautiful woman and wanted to be loved and just was misled by so many people and just ended up in such a sad, sad state.
The moment the voluptuous model was named 1993 Playmate of the Year, Anna Nicole's career launched into the stratosphere, culminating in a hit TV series, The Anna Nicole Show. In many ways, she carved out a path for the success of current centerfold of the moment, Kendra Wilkinson.
Someone like Kendra is really showing that our ideas about what's acceptable behavior and what's an acceptable backstory have changed. You can start as a stripper, become connected to Hugh Hefner, and then build a brand for yourself where you become this beloved idol that women adore.
But while Kendra's career would thrive in the all-access world of reality TV, Anna Nicole's took a nosedive. With her slurred speech and erratic behavior, an American TV audience soon realized that the show was documenting a life being destroyed by drug addiction.
She was a very, very vulnerable sort of person. I think once you get in over your head, and she was involved in so many things, from a very high-profile court case dealing with her ex-husband's finances. She had the situation of her son dying quite young of a drug overdose, perhaps accidental. It was more than she could handle, and she turned to drugs for refuge just to get through the day.
To cope with her fame and chaotic personal life, Anna Nicole began relying more and more on an increasingly dangerous cocktail of prescription drugs. On February 8, 2007, Anna Nicole was discovered unconscious inside her room at the Hard Rock Hotel in Hollywood, Florida. She was rushed to the hospital, but announced dead on arrival. A coroner's report revealed the cause was an overdose of a powerful sedative that proved lethal when combined with 9 other prescription drugs found in her system. She was 39 years old.
When she's just so infantile and she's gonna fall and break without somebody holding her up, and this goes on for years and years, you know, there's gonna be a time that somebody drops the ball, and that's what happened.
While a lifestyle surrounded by drugs and alcohol can create serious problems, throw a wrong man into the mix, and the centerfold dream can quickly turn into a nightmare.
I fear a lot of women are being taken advantage of.
There are women who will get hooked up with a partner who doesn't have their best interest at heart.
And all I could hear was, get on the floor, just guns, everything.
Almost from the moment a centerfold appears in the pages of a magazine, she's confronted with temptation, but sometimes the greatest danger comes in the company they keep. For Jennifer Rivero, Playboy Playmate of the Month for July 1999, it was her friend Paris Hilton who put her in the middle of an international incident. The pair attended the 2010 FIFA World Cup in South Africa when drug dogs discovered a marijuana cigarette in Hilton's high-priced designer bag. Both were arrested and spent 4 harrowing hours in a South African jail, but once in court, it was Rivero who took the rap. While there are times it's a gal pal that will get a centerfold in trouble, it's more often the man who might seem like Mr. Right who will be the one who leads them down the wrong path.
Beautiful women do attract the wrong kind of guy often, and that's because the wrong kind of guy, the bad boy, has so much confidence that he's going to go up to all the beautiful women because he wants this trophy, and beautiful women often find them kind of exciting.
In many ways, Kia Drayton didn't seek out the centerfold life. It found her.
I actually started modeling from being a Hooters girl. And from there, I met the owner, and he recommended me to submit my pictures for their calendar. And lo and behold, when the calendar came out, I got the biggest picture in the calendar.
But when I first saw her pictures, I could tell that she had that sparkle. She had that type of qualities that could take her places. You know, she had some really good potential in the way that she looked and the way she presented herself.
An Atlanta centerfold calendar publisher wasn't the only one who saw something special in those pictures. It wasn't long before Playboy came calling.
They flew me out it was only supposed to be for a few days, and I met some of the girls there, and the first person I became really good friends with was Kendra. As soon as she saw me, she told Hef, she's like, you know what, you have to make her Miss December. And so my 3 days that I was supposed to stay there turned into 2 months, and then I ended up staying there for about 5 more months in the guest house. And Hef was such a great guy. He made me feel so comfortable. It was like we was a family, and I was a part of like a sorority.
I think once a girl becomes a playmate, they immediately enter this family of playmates. Ultimately, you know, after some time passes, when your issue comes out, I think you have to sort of sort yourself out and pursue your own dreams.
I didn't know what to do when I came back home, because it was like I was living in a mansion. I was living this lifestyle that I never really dreamed of before, and then, you know, for me to go back home to my ordinary life, I was a little culture shocked a little bit.
Once back in Atlanta, Kia would learn her life was anything but ordinary, as she was surrounded by a whole new group of people eager to party with a playmate.
When I came back, I didn't know what was real and I didn't know what was fake.
Once you're in Playboy or associated with that brand, You know, you're going to meet all types of people from everywhere, and everyone wants to be your friend, and everyone wants to know more about you. So you're going to be bombarded with all types of people, friends, and some other people who may not have your best interest in mind.
When I met this guy, it happened so fast. Like, I don't even think I got a chance to get to know him, because within a few weeks, we'd already moved in with each other, you know, and I barely knew him.
Looking to take a break from living large in Atlanta, Kia and her boyfriend took a trip to see her family in South Carolina. Moments after checking into their hotel, Kia's life would take a dramatic and terrifying turn.
I get in the room. I probably hadn't been in the room no more than 2-3 minutes. I was using the bathroom. Next thing you know, I hear police. I hear people just running into the room, and all I could hear was, "Get on the floor, get on the floor."
Kia's boyfriend, who she knew as Sean, was actually Otis Leon Story, and Otis had packed a little something extra for the trip, a kilo of cocaine.
And they pull out his bag, and next thing you know, he's sitting there, and he's like, "I don't know how they got that in my bag. She put it in my bag." And at the time, I'm looking at him, I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?" I was so hurt and so upset that this guy that, you know, I had, you know, after 5 months, you have some sort of feelings for a person, you know, and I care for him, I loved him, but I'm handcuffed, you know, sitting in a chair in a hotel room and realizing that this guy is not who he said he was.
Kia and Otis were arrested on charges of cocaine trafficking. Bail was set at $2.2 million. Kia would spend 60 days in jail.
So here I am living like this lavish lifestyle in the Playboy Mansion to sleeping on the floor on a mat. You know, people had to tell you when you can and you can't eat, or when you have to wake up, when you have to go to sleep.
Otis Story would eventually admit the drugs were his and the charges against her were dropped. But the thoughts of what could have been still haunt Kia today.
I thought I would never get married. I thought I would never have a kid, you know, when they tell you, you know, this is a federal offense, when they tell you, like, look, you know, you're gonna be facing up to 45 years, you kind of look at your whole life, like, you know, I'm so young, you know, 45 years from now, I'm not gonna be able to have the things that I always wished to have. And I had to do a year of therapy for it.
I'd say that was a good test of her character and her resolve to be able to stand through those trying times and come out on the other side and still be able to be a productive individual and still be goal-oriented and focused on things that she wants to do.
I don't know at what point you know you're being taken advantage of. I think that if you find out, once you know you're being taken advantage of, you need to take measures. And if you don't know, it's unfortunate.
I can now tell you that I have thought of my future guy, and he consists of being 60, a fiddle player, works at Disneyland, so I can go in every day. That's all I want. I'd be a happy, happy girl.